Cardinal memories live on, only on Channel 5. Okay.
From the present to our past, we here at Channel 5 have been covering sports for 75 years now, and tonight we look back at the memories and those who covered them. Let's go back to the very beginning. The early days were simply about filling the broadcast day. The 1947 U.S. Open at St. Louis Country Club was transmitted not only here in town, but to a national audience. Before that, Channel 5 was already carrying baseball.
The St. Louis Browns and the Cardinals. And I think we paid the Cardinals or the Browns $5 for the rental of the 2 seats.
Just about everything was fair game in the early days, like this gentleman who brought the idea of a squared-off baseball bat to town.
While you were making your trip in, did you anticipate or turn over in your mind any changes you have for the Cardinals in the immediate future?
Bob Ingham was the first Channel 5 sportscaster. He took viewers from the All-Star game to a fishing boat. When the Cardinals made their rush to the 1964 World Series, former Billiken basketball star Ed Macaulay was there. The football Cardinals arrived in 1960, and 4 years later, wide receiver Sonny Randall became the face of Channel 5 Sports, often reporting from the practice field. When the NBA Hawks left for Atlanta, Sonny got the news from owner Ben Kerner.
They didn't want to play basketball in St. Louis anymore.
Professional soccer came to St. Louis in the 60s. The St. Louis Stars played many of their games at Busch Stadium. 29,000 people came to Busch to watch CBC and Sleuth play football. Famous faces came to town. Actor Charlton Heston played tennis on 8th Street. Jackie Robinson, Notre Dame coach Ara Parseghian, golfer Arnold Palmer, and very often the St. Louis fan appeared on our air.
I like the hockey team, but the new name, it just don't go.
And though the name didn't catch on right away, the Blues became a sensation in town with capacity crowds and appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Despite a rain-delayed start, crime finally did get underway.
Draw!
We have one winner in 73.
Well, it would be nice. It really would. Certainly from...
Coming up, the deans of St. Louis television sports, Jay Randolph and Ron Jacober. As the 60s gave way to the 70s, mediocrity was the theme. There were some great individual moments. Lou Brock.
He did it!
Bob Gibson.
A no-hitter for Gibson!
Bob Forsch.
A no-hitter for Bob Forsch!
But no postseason. The football Cardinals had their 3 greatest years behind Coach Don Coryell. Otherwise, losing and ineptitude. We said hello and goodbye to the spirits of St. Louis, who left behind a story of mythic proportions. The Blues fell on hard times with 7 losing seasons, were sold twice, and nearly left town.
They knew! There it is!
Leon Spinks became heavyweight champion, but then lost the rematch to Muhammad Ali. Belleville's Jimmy Connors was at the top of the tennis world. And at decade's end, the Steamers were born with greatness on the horizon.
The Cardinals have won their 5th in a row tonight, their 2nd straight over the Mets.
Over the past few years, we've interviewed scores of people for you on these dugout shows.
Between them, Jay Randolph and Ron Jacober have seen a lot change since their nearly 40 combined years manning the Channel 5 sports chair. The 2 deans of St. Louis TV join us for tonight's Cardinal Buick Sunday Conversation.
When I was hired by Channel 5, I insisted on getting a 3-year contract because I didn't know if I could do it. I'd never done it. I'd done a lot of play-by-play.
The biggest break in my life was the phone call I made to Jay. I was at KMOX saying, Jay, it's a great radio station, but I'm not getting anywhere. If you hear anything, let me know. He said, oh my God, we're ready to hire another sportscaster.
There was very little equipment. There was really no bells and whistles like you have today. And you flew by the seat of your pants.
We were still filming those days. Lab time was 45 minutes for the film. There were no stand-up live shots. There was no satellite. There was no videotape. It was film. And the technology is what is totally different now than it was then.
I would say this, but we were able to give our opinion and tell stories, although they quite often didn't have a picture with them, just us. But we were able to do more of that than you're able to do today.
Yeah, good point. And along those lines, would you like to do sports like today?
Hey, it looked, Dick, for a couple of hours tonight like the Blues were going to pull off what would be considered nearly impossible assignment of back-to-back upsets of Montreal and Philadelphia on the road.
I would like to do television sports as long as I could do it my own way. I think so many of the sportscasters I see and hear today are cheerleaders. They're not reporting the news. They're just cheering for the team. Nothing wrong with hoping the Cardinals win the game, of course, but they're not reporters.
And play-by-play, as Ron will tell you, that was my love. And even today, I would say to you that I'd much rather do play-by-play than be in the studio doing reporting.
You mean ad-libbing in the 10 o'clock sports?
Yep.
Particularly disappointing after the Blues got off to such a high-flying start.
It was kind of an unusual game, John. It really was.
The thing, Jay, you are most proud of in your stint at Channel 5?
Well, I think probably Ron and I both enjoyed the opportunity when we had it because we worked very hard to make connections and have people in the community who would trust us with stories.
The one thing I'm most proud of that people may not even be aware of, when I got there, nothing was kept. And all of that stuff you guys have in the library was because I started that. And that's why we could do that year-end special we did every year.
The decade of the 70s was pretty much of a bummer. I hope the 80s are better. We can win something.
Wonder if we'll be here 10 years from now, Ron.
I hope not.
I hope not.
Thanks
either.
for being with us.
Up next, three guys with a lot of years in the Channel 5 sports office. Art Holliday, Rennie Knott, and Mike Bush. You gotta love it.
By the way,
the 80s were marked by one championship and a lot of near misses. Whitey ball was the rage, played out on our broadcast. They made it to Game 7 of 3 World Series, winning in 1982. The Big Red were a study in disappointment and left town by decade's end. The soccer Steamers became a phenomenon, but fell short of a championship. The Blues put together their greatest season and played their most memorable game, but found the Stanley Cup to be elusive. Mizzou basketball became number 1, and the Fighting Illini played in the Rose Bowl. In the 90s, we cheered Mark McGwire's prodigious home runs.
I think I can get a couple more, so.
At the brand new Kiel Center, Brett Hull was shooting and smiling, and Wayne Gretzky came and went. A successor to the Steamers, the Ambush won the NPSL title. Jackie Joyner-Kersee became the world's greatest female athlete. The Dome opened for business, and the Rams scorched the turf all the way to a Super Bowl in 1999. The Cardinals partied like it was 1999, but in 2006 and 2011. Busch Stadium 3 became their new home, along with the neighboring Ballpark Village. And Dawn Harper Nelson became our latest Golden Girl, winning the 100-meter hurdles in Beijing in 2008.
When there's an emergency, the baseball equivalent of 911, Whitey Herzog's not afraid to call on the committee.
Later this evening in the 6 o'clock hour, we will meet with Cardinals General Manager John Mozeliak.
Art Holliday and Rennie Knott have been around for a lot of that history in the sports anchor chair. Here's how they've seen it.
To me, the biggest difference right now is that so many of the teams and the individual athletes have tried to reclaim the narrative. The fans, viewers used to have to depend on us for post-game sound. Now, Cardinals, Blues, the sound is on immediately after the broadcast. And social media, players with their own podcasts, really trying to get their own story out there.
To me, the change in those relationships, it was one of the biggest things that kind of, not necessarily soured me on sports, but kind of disappointed me, because I think we want to be there to be that fan that gets to cross into the velvet rope and tell their stories. And I think it got to this point where the players didn't trust us as much as maybe they did back in the 90s, the 80s, and things like that.
So, Art, how about best sports memory in covering an athlete, an event? What would it be for you?
I mean, I got to cover the Whitey Ball Cardinals in the 80s. That was a unique style of baseball that we will never see again. We see glimpses of it right now with this Cardinals team, but nothing like 200 stolen bases and scaring the heck out of opposing catchers.
How about for you, Randy?
Game 7, Boston, Massachusetts, when the Blues win the Cup for the first time. And to watch grown men cry on the ice. That parade day, the team, the players, shared it with the fans. They got off of the trucks and off of the floats and went into the crowds and really embraced the moment.
You know, in terms of enjoying the memories, I will always enjoy the story of Kurt Warner and the story of Marshall Faulk and the story of Dick Vermeil and that run to the Super Bowl.
One that really reaches out and touches my heart is the story of Don Harper Nelson. To see this young lady come from East St. Louis, she was the last person to make the U.S. Olympic team that year. And to see that smile and to realize she's the best in the world for that moment, just incredible.
I'm Mike Bush. Thanks for keeping us company. We're glad you're with us for another Sports Plus Sunday.
In the midst of the 19 years Mike Bush spent in sports here, he created this little show. From a 7-minute block to a standalone hour, and he's still very proud.
It meant the world to me because we were so lucky in that time in the 1980s here in St. Louis. We had this array of great guests over the years, so many names, the biggest names. If they came to St. Louis, we went after them to try to bring them in for Sports Plus. And that also helped drive the ratings. The great thing about doing Sports Plus back then is they left us alone. Management left us alone. Because we were here late on a Sunday night, 10:30 to 11:30, there's no management around. So they pretty much let us be as creative as we wanted to be. And we would do theme shows. We could do long form packages. And we had the panel at the end of the show where we brought on some of the most opinionated people, some of the smartest people in St. Louis sports. Of everything that I've done in my career, that's really the highlight. I really, really enjoyed putting that show together, and the fact that people watched made it even better.
After 53 seasons, the Blues finally got their parade down Market Street, winning the Stanley Cup for the first time. They've had 15 straight winning seasons.
I'm a hometown hero, baby! Woo!
The Cardinals continue to win consistently, headed for their 22nd season above 500 this century. There is optimism and growth at Mizzou, Illinois, and St. Louis U. And on the horizon, the return of the Battlehawks and the impact they expect to have. And Centene Stadium is up and ready for MLS in 2023. STL City SC is set to begin play.
The high school coverage goes far and beyond Friday nights.
Today is the final time the Cardinals will face the Cubs this season, and the final time Albert Pujols will face the Cubs ever.
It's not an overstatement to say he's been dreaming about this moment since he was a little kid.
And now let's hear from the next generation of 5 on Your Side Sports. What does it mean to you as a St. Louis native to be a part of the Channel 5 legacy?
Well, it means everything. You grew up watching this channel when you're a kid, and you see all the great stuff that they do. You see Channel 5 at all the sporting events that you take part in.
I mean, we grew up watching people like you, people like Mike Bush, people like Rennie Knott here, and to have the chance to work alongside some of these people who have created a legacy here has been a dream come true.
You guys get on me every time I say this because you say it makes you feel old, but we grew up watching Frank and Mike and Rennie and all these guys, and then we get to call them our co-workers, and they're telling us what to do and giving us assignments. It's crazy.
What do you think we're going to see in the future in the way we cover and report sports? You go first.
I think we're going to be talking to these athletes and asking them to let us join their platforms to talk about sports, because they're going to have all the control in a couple of years.
Just the way that social media has drastically impacted the industry. Even you see some of these college commitment parties. You know, it's a spectacle now.
You got to be everywhere. You can't just be on at 5 o'clock. You got to be at the practices. You got to be on your phone all day. You got to be everywhere. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind.
Yep.
So 10 years from now, what do you want people to say about your career? Corey first.
Oh boy, that he loves St. Louis.
That there was more of an impact through storytelling than just sports coverage, than just reporting on a game or a practice, but really connecting with all the people that, the lives that you get to share, the stories that you get to share through this job.
We are all so passionate about telling those stories and, you know, giving the people who don't have a platform, and I think that's what I want to be remembered for, is just how much I love St. Louis and, of course, the fun that we've all had together.
Hi, this is Rams quarterback Trent Green. Sure, the money was nice, but the real reason I came home was so I could watch more Sports Plus.